Again, it's a red stick.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video I want to show you 10 tools that I think every Windows user should use, especially if you are a developer. These are tools that have very interesting and very exciting features. I use most of them on a daily basis myself, and they're going to make your Windows experience much more pleasant. So let us get right into it. Now, before we get right into it, I would like to mention that this video is sponsored by UltraEdit, and I hope you don't skip that part because these sponsorships are what makes these videos possible, and I think that at least for a couple of you guys, this might be quite interesting. So UltraEdit is a feature-rich and very powerful editor, a text editor that does way more than just allow you to edit your code. So you can see here, if you scroll through their webpage, you can see that they have a bunch of features, a bunch of basic features like some auto completion, some multi-select, which is actually not that basic because not all editors support those. But you can see you have HTML Markdown, live preview, you have an advanced search, you have some column mode stuff, a little bit like the Vim block mode selection, but you don't have to use a terminal editor. You can see that you have integrated FTP, SSH, Telnet, and so on. You have different themes to choose from. And you can see in the top here, if you go to download or the products, you can see that there are specific products like Ultra Compare, Ultra Finder, Ultra FTP, and so on, and also a Git extension. And all in all, this is a very feature-rich editor that allows you to also do a couple of things on the side while coding without having to leave the application. So you don't have to install FileZilla for the FTP stuff. You don't have to install some specific Git GUI. Everything can be done inside of UltraEdit. You can look at the features here on their website. Again, different themes, formats, and features. The Finder is a more advanced Finder than just the basic search function. And if you are interested in that product, you can go to ultraedit.com. You will find the link in the description down below. And they give you a free trial and, of course, also a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're not satisfied with their product, you can also get a refund and you can try it out for free. So I recommend you try out UltraEdit. The link is in the description down below. Alright, so the first tool that I want to show to you guys that I think all of you should be using on Windows is the Process Explorer. And the Process Explorer is not a fancy tool at all. It is essentially just an advanced task manager. So we can see here, we have a bit more information. We can see descriptions of processes. We can see the company name behind processes, both of course only if it's provided. We can see if the process is signed or not, verified or not. We can right-click a process. We can not only kill the process, but also the whole process tree. We can restart a process. We can suspend it. We can create a dump of the process. We can check for viruses using VirusTotal. And when we click on a process, we can get some more detailed information down here. So which files are used and so on. And one thing that we cannot use with a task manager, we cannot do with a task manager, is we can look for file handles. So we can click on this here, and if a file is locked by a process, so if you cannot delete a file because it says that some process is using that file, you can look for the file handle here, and you can see, okay, what exactly is locking that file, how can I unlock it, and you can do that in the Process Explorer. You can also look at the performance similar to the Task Manager. You can see the CPU usage here. You can see the memory usage here, the GPU usage here, and so on, and you can also see the summary here. So a very basic tool, but a little bit more advanced in the Task Manager. It allows you to have more control over the processes, more than Windows gives you by default. And yeah, this is the first tool that I think all of you should be using on Windows. The second tool on my list is quite similar to the Process Explorer, but it's also quite different. It is the Process Monitor, and it's also by sysinternals, the guys who develop Process Explorer, but it has a different use case. Process Explorer is used to just see which processes are running, to end them, to kill them, to look for file handles. This tool here monitors exactly what each process is doing. What are the different processes that are running, doing on my computer in real time? So if I scroll down here, I'm not going to be able to scroll down to the bottom because the bottom is constantly updated with new information here. And we can see exactly what are certain processes doing. So for example, you can see OBS right now, since I'm recording, is creating a file at the videos directory on my computer, and it did that with success. So you can see that different different applications here doing something, writing files, exiting threads, creating threads, going into the registry, doing something, and so on. And if you have a process that you're suspicious about because you think maybe this is a malicious process, you can see exactly what is it doing. Is it maybe creating files that it shouldn't be creating, maybe some keylogger files. You can see exactly what the process is doing. You can also filter here, so you can look for OBS, for example, like that, and it's going to take some time to go through all the processes here, so I'm not going to do that right now. But you can filter here, you can analyze, and you can see maybe you also want to check your own software. Is it doing something that it shouldn't be doing? Or maybe you want to use something and you want to keep it private, so if it creates some temp files, some backup files, some cache files, you want to delete those, and you want to know, okay, where are these cache files? Where are these backup files that I want to delete to not leave any evidence for something that I did? Now, it doesn't have to be malicious what you did, but maybe you want to have a privacy and you don't want any files to reveal what you're doing on your computer. So you can do that with a process monitor whenever you want to monitor what individual processes are doing, the exact operation, the success or the failure code, and what exactly happened there. You can use the process monitor for that. Next up, we have one of the probably most useful tools on my computer, which I use on a regular basis. It consists of multiple tools itself, and it's called PowerToys. PowerToys is running in a taskbar here as a tray icon. We can left click it and it opens up the settings. By the way, all the tools that I present in today's video are going to be available by clicking on the download links in the description down below. So I'm going to link to the download pages. And PowerToys is essentially a collection of tools that you can see here on the left. Probably the most useful tool that I use most often is the color picker. I also like fancy zones. I'm going to show you how these tools work in a second here. We also have the image resizer. We have bulk renaming and all that. The color picker is the most fascinating one to me because it solves a problem that I have quite often. I see something and I want to know what is the exact color code of this particular thing. For example, let's say I'm on my desktop and I see this Neural 9 logo here, and I want to know what is the exact color code of the orange. Now, what I used to do in the past is I used to open up snipping tool. I used to make a screenshot of that. I used to copy that, open this in GIMP, then go to GIMP and press the color picker tool, click on the orange, get the color code, and then use it. It is way easier to use the color picker of PowerToys. It's running in the background. You don't notice it. You click on Windows Shift, or you press Windows Shift C, and you get this color picker here, as you can see. Then I can hover over this orange. I can left click on it, and it opens up this tool here where I can just copy the hex code. I can copy the RGB. I can copy the HSL, which is, I think, hue, saturation, lightness. And then I can use it in design tools like Canva, Photoshop, GIMP, and so on. A very useful tool, and it saves a lot of work because GIMP alone takes some time to boot, and it's very stupid to open a graphic program to just pick a color, right? So this is a way better solution to just use a color picker. The other one was fancy zones, and for fancy zones, the shortcut consists of a key that you probably don't have on my keyboard because it's a German key. So you have to look up the combination on your own. But essentially, if I press that combination, it opens up the fancy tiles. And I hope you can see that here actually. It allows you to define custom grid types. And down here I have my custom layouts. I can just create a new layout by clicking on create layout. And then I can split here. For example, I can say I want to have 3 horizontal splits here. I can also resize them. I can have vertical splits by using the shift key here like that. And maybe I want to have one in the middle here. I can save and apply. I can click on this, I can close this, and now I can open up a directory like programming, for example. I can hold the shift key and drag this window, and you can see I can now stick it to the individual grid. So for example, here, I can open up CMD, I can stick it with shift here, I can open up another CMD, I can shift stick it here, and so on. So this is how you can tile your windows manually, defining your own layouts. And the other stuff is basically, bulk file renaming and resizing images. So if you have an image, you can right click it and you can resize it to medium, small, or a custom size, whatever. A very useful collection of tools that I like to use on a regular basis. The fourth tool I want to show to you guys is a very useful tool if you want to free up some disk space or if you want to see how your disk space is being used on your system. This tool is called WinDirStat, and it shows you the distribution of disk space. You can apply it on full drives, so on full hard drives, or you can pick a folder. So let's start with a very small folder so I don't have to wait too long. Let's go to programming, let's go to Python, and maybe let's go to computer vision. I have some projects here. And yeah, let's just open this. Let's click on OK. This should be immediately done. What you can see here in a second down below is a graphical representation of how all of this works. So for example, you can see that we have a neural network here, a cafe model. This takes up most of the space here. You can see that this is a big blue block. We can click on these here. You can see this is an MP4 file of people walking. Here we have a video. Then if we click on this here, this is another MP4 file, people.mp4 in German. We have an XML file that is quite large. We have another video file. So you can see exactly what is taking up all the space. You can see it here with percentages. You can see also the data type. So if I click on MP4, it highlights all the MP4 files. And this is a very small directory, so it doesn't look too impressive. I'm now going to run it on a larger directory. So I'm going to open. You can also run this on a whole hard drive, but this will take a lot of time. So I'm going to just run it on the whole programming directory. I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to run this. And then I'm going to get back to you once it's done because it's going to take some time. And this is going to look a bit more impressive now. Alright, so it's now done and you can see that this looks way more impressive, and this is just one directory, one large directory consisting of many subdirectories, but if you do it on your whole hard drive, this is going to look even more impressive. We can now see that we have some pretty large chunks here, some pretty large blocks. If we click on them, we're going to see that those are CAFE models. So these are models that are naturally a little bit larger. We can click on this here. This is a pack. I don't know what this is actually. But we have a bunch of CAFE models. Then here we have some gray blocks that are quite large as well. Those are PDF files. We have index files here. We have DLL files that are a little bit larger. And you can see a lot of small files. This one is a little bit larger. What is that? SQLite 3.c. So you can see the file types here. C files make up most of the space occupied here. So you can see those are all the white things here. We can see that Python files are also a significant portion. CAFE models are large. They're not too many, but they're large. What do we have here? Word list German. So if I delete, for example, the word list German here, I can just right click it and I can press delete. You can press yes, and then it's going to be deleted and the graph below is going to be updated. So now this block is going to be gone and the whole thing is going to be reformatted and reloaded. And this is a very useful tool. This is legit a very useful tool if you want to free up some space, because in my case, for example, I only have 500 gigabytes of space on this laptop. So oftentimes I want to free up space and I can see, okay, for example, if I don't need these CAFE models, I can delete all of them and this is going to free up some significant space, and I don't need them maybe. Maybe I need them, so I'm going to keep them. But if you want to free up, let's say 10 gigabytes and you don't know where to start, maybe you figure out that if you scan your whole hard drive, you have some large block that takes up like 5 gigabytes and you don't really need it, some virtual machine maybe that you don't need, or some ISO file, some old Linux distribution. This is how you spot these things. And of course, you can also pick individual directories. So for example, if I want to go to notebooks, okay, this is a pretty small directory. Let's go to professional. This is professional here. And here we have a specific file of vidstream, or maybe if I go to probably the largest directory will be the Neural 9 directory, because that's where I prepare all my videos. Where is it? Neural 9. There you go on the top. If I click on this, this whole thing here is Neural 9. So this is where I have all my prepared videos and so on. And then we also have other directories, computer vision down here. This is a very useful tool to graphically analyze your disk usage. Next up, we have a tool that probably a lot of you guys are already using, and this is CCleaner, Crap Cleaner. Essentially what it does is it frees up space by deleting useless stuff or stuff that you don't need. So for example, you can specify here for Microsoft Edge, Chromium, Internet Explorer, the Windows Explorer, the system files, what exactly you don't need. For example, I don't need the cache of Microsoft Edge, if there is one. I don't need the cache or the cookies or the internet history of Edge Chromium. I don't need the thumbnail cache of the Windows Explorer. I don't need a full recycle bin. I don't need temporary files. I don't need my clipboard. When I go to applications, I also don't need the cache of Firefox. I also don't need the history of the Firefox. I don't like to delete the cookies because I don't want to log into my accounts every time I choose to wipe, to clean up some space here. So I do this almost daily using the CCleaner, so I don't want to have unnecessary cache. But I also don't want to log into my accounts every day manually, so I keep the cookies for Firefox, Thunderbird, Chrome, and all that. You can define what you want to keep, what you want to delete, then you can analyze and you can see how much space it would free up, and then you can run the CCleaner, run the cleaner to actually clean up that space. And for me, running this on a daily basis, it usually cleans up 1 or 2 gigabytes of data. If you do it weekly, probably more. If you do it monthly or yearly, this is going to probably have like 10 gigabytes of data or even more. So this is a very useful tool. You can also use it to fix some registry errors. I don't use that too often, but you can scan for issues and you can review the selected issues and you can fix all of them. Usually stuff that is no longer used, missing DLLs and stuff like that. You can choose to do that. The main feature here is the custom clean, and this is a very useful tool if you want to free some space by deleting useless files, but also if you just want to delete the history. A lot of people like to delete their browser history, their mail client history, their Windows file history, so you can do that using CCleaner in one central place. Then we have another tool by sysinternal, so the guys that develop the Process Explorer and the Process Monitor, and this tool is called Autoruns. Autoruns is a very useful tool when you want to disable stuff that is constantly being executed by itself. So maybe you have something that when you start up your computer, it's always being run and you cannot disable it by just going to the task manager and going to startup. So you cannot see it here, or it doesn't help to disable it. Whatever, you can do that with Autoruns. So Autoruns shows you, first of all, what happens at the logon. So what happens when you start the computer. You can see in my case, it opens up the Logitech hub. You can see it opens up a VGA tray that I use for my third monitor here. It opens up some other applications. You can uncheck them. You can check them here to enable them. But you can also see what happens, for example, when you open up the Internet Explorer. What happens when you open up the Windows Explorer. And you can also see everything at once, what is happening without you consciously saying, I want this to happen. So I think, for example, where was it? I had this batch file that I always run when I open up the command line. This is what I added into the registry. I have a video how to pimp your Windows terminal. There I show you how to have some Autorun script here. It's also listed here, even though it's manual, even though I created it. It recognizes that whenever I open the command processor, it runs my batch file. So this is a very useful tool if you want to have more control over your Autoruns. Just an advanced version again of one feature of the task manager. The next tool I want to show you is something that we're not going to talk too much about because I have multiple videos on it, and this is the Windows subsystem for Linux in combination with the Windows terminal. Again, I have videos on that already where I show you how to set it up, where I show you how to configure it, how to style it. Essentially, the Windows terminal is a tool by Microsoft that allows you to have multiple terminal tabs open. You can use the command prompt, you can use the Windows subsystem for Linux, you can split it by pressing Shift, Alt, and minus, or Shift, Alt, and plus. You can also close it and so on. You can use the Windows subsystem for Linux to run fancy stuff like NeoFetch. You can also use it to run NeoVim. You can use it to run Linux software, to run Fuzzy Finder, for example. It depends on whether you're using the Windows subsystem for Linux 1 or 2. If you're using 1, you have better file access for Windows. So if you choose to use the Windows subsystem for Linux mainly for using it as an editor like NeoVim, then I would recommend Windows subsystem for Linux 1. If you want to have a Linux distribution that is basically a virtual machine in a terminal, I would recommend using the Windows subsystem for Linux 2. But as you can see, this is a nice theme that I have here, the Dracula theme. I can configure that at the settings, in the settings here of the Windows terminal. So again, I'm not going to talk too much about this. Basically, I recommend all of you install the Windows subsystem for Linux in combination with the Windows terminal. If you want to have some more detailed explanations, you can check out my videos that I have already on these things. Same goes for the next tool, because I have already made a video about this one as well, and it's called Everything. This is a must-have tool. You need this tool. This is a must-have. It's an instant fuzzy finder on Windows. So it's an instant file search that works with fuzzy finding. So you can basically type, for example, if I want to find the cafe models, I can just type cafe like that, cafe model, and it finds it instantly across different directories. I can also type caf and model, for example, it finds them as well. I can type computer vision like that, and it finds it. I can type comp vision, it finds computer vision instantly everywhere it occurs. Now, if you run this for the first time, or if you haven't used it for a while, then it's going to need 30 seconds, maybe a minute to index the whole file system once, and then you can find everything. It's not even comparable with the Windows file search. The Windows file search in the Explorer and in the Start menu is super slow. It doesn't find everything. It is not fuzzy most of the time. So this tool is a must-have. I could not live without this tool anymore. Whenever you look for something, you find it instantly, and you don't even have to know exactly what it's named. You just have to know, okay, it probably consists of comp, and it also consists of something else, and it finds it. It's a very, very special tool. I can also type vision and comp, and it's still going to find computer vision. So the order doesn't even matter. It's a very, very useful tool. Now, the next tool is something that you probably won't use on a regular basis. You're going to need it once or twice, or maybe once a year, twice a year, or something like that. It's called HWiNFO, and it's a very useful tool if you want to know some exact information about your hardware. So for example, you can see here I have my CPU on the left. I see the exact model. I see the clock speed. I see everything that's happening real time. If I have multiple CPUs, I can also see them here. I have the GPU data as well, the onboard GPU, the dedicated GPU. I can see exactly how much memory, what type of memory, and so on. If I go back here, I can also click on the RAM, for example, and I can see, okay, who is the manufacturer, what exactly is the memory type, what is the size of the memory. So I'm not a hardware guy. I don't understand everything that's written here, but whatever information you want to see about a certain hardware component of your computer, HWiNFO is going to show it to you. So you can also try to go to the motherboard, for example. Again, I don't even know what exactly I'm doing here, so I don't understand most of the things here. But if you know, for example, for some troubleshooting, you need to know the exact version of your processor, or you need to know, okay, what is the type of RAM that your system is using, or what is the type of memory that your GPU is using. If you want to know that, you can find this information immediately by just using HWiNFO. You can, as I said, get this summary here. Very useful tool. You probably won't need it often, but when you need it, you have it, and it's a very useful tool. And then last but not least, another tool by sysinternals that I have installed just recently. I enjoy it quite much. It's called ZoomIt, but I don't use it actually for the zoom, or I won't use it for the zoom. I will probably use it for the drawing features. So first of all, it's running in the taskbar as a tray icon. And what I can do is I can press Ctrl+1 to zoom into my screen, as you can see right now while I'm recording. But the more interesting feature, in my opinion, is that I can press Ctrl+2 and I can start drawing onto the screen. So I can press R for red, and I can start drawing here, not only on my desktop, by the way, in the IDE. I can draw on my web browser. It doesn't really matter. I can also press W to cause a white screen, and I can draw here as well. I can also press E to erase everything. I can press B for blue. I can press Y for yellow. I can press O, I think, for orange, G for green, and all that. So I can draw on my screen whenever I want to show something to you guys. I can press E again to delete it. I can press K for key, so for black. And I can press right click to leave all this again. Or I think Ctrl+1 should leave this. So this is a very useful thing that I haven't used really in the past, but I think for tutorials it's quite nice to show you. For example, if I want to say, look, these 4 directories here, and maybe it's not as simple as just marking them with my mouse like that. I can just go ahead and say Ctrl+2. I can say, I mean, these 4 directories here, and we can take them and move them here, whatever. I can play around with that, and if I want, I can even zoom into them. So a very useful tool, probably only for creators, or if you're streaming something, maybe for school, for university, for work. You don't really need this unless you're working with other people or showing something to other people. But it's a very useful tool, at least for me. So maybe this is one of those tools, the only tool on the list that I don't think every Windows user should use. Maybe every content creator or every teacher or every presenter on Windows should use this tool. So that's it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. Also, if you have any suggestions for interesting Windows tools that everyone should use, let me also know in the comment section down below. Otherwise, let me know which of these 10 tools you're going to install on your computer, which you enjoy the most. And besides that, don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.